Mine will be to take you through this environmental and social impact assessment section. Uh, to start with, maybe you'll want to know what is the objective of an ECA? Basically, the main objective of an ECA is to give a prediction of the potential impacts, both positive and negative, and then come up with mitigation measures for the negative ones and try to avoid the extremely negative impacts and strengthen the positive impacts. And how do you get to predict these impacts? Then it calls for review of existing laws, regulations, and standards, existing literature, and also having public participation surveys and going to site. Basically, that is what we did to achieve this objective of getting impacts for this project. And so the methodology that was employed was both use of primary and secondary data, including project documents, research papers, and such kind of documentation. Primary data was collected through site visits, having public participation discussions, that is focus group discussions and key informant interviews, including the government officials in the county, and also research agencies like REACH and other NGOs within Lodwar. So just to mention the major positive impacts that were identified, first and foremost, there will be improved health and quality of life for the inhabitants of Lodwar, because when the project will be initiated, you know that the locals will be employed both as casual and skilled laborers, and that will be a positive impact to the community, which will enhance the revenue for the municipality. The project will also reduce the distance traveled for collection of domestic water, because currently you know that most of the women and girls are vulnerable to sexual abuse because of the long distances they travel to look for water. The next impact is increased availability of impounded water, which will enhance agricultural activities within the community. And lastly, the expenditure on clean water will be reduced significantly because of the availability of water. Now we go to the negative impacts. During construction, increased wastewater. Because of that impact, we advocate for consideration of sewer systems to ensure that the wastewater is treated it's collected and treated maybe in treatment plants before being discharged into the system, into the environment. And then exposure of workers to health and safety impacts during construction. This can be mitigated by ensuring that workers are given PPEs and they're also mobilized and trained on how to use the PPEs and the reasons for why they need to use the PPEs. There should also be initiatives like programs to have statutory trainings for the workers so that they are well informed how to handle emergencies in case they occur. And then there is a possibility of degradation of materials during construction, and we advocate for site restoration when the project is completed. There is also a chance of loss of vegetation because of the excavation and clearing of sites, and this can be minimized by ensuring that only the vegetation that should be cut is restricted to the project site, and where the vegetation has been cleared, there should be an offsetting in that new trees are planted to replace the ones that have been cut. And the issue of waste management during construction, where waste will be generated, like the leftovers of cut pipes and the likes, should be well collected and disposed in a designated area. And we have chances where contractors come in with their employees from different areas which are not within the locality of the project. That can be a negative impact to the locals, and so we advocate that the client gives consideration to ensure that the contractor employs the locals to avoid conflicts. There is also a possibility of spreading of HIV and AIDS during the construction period because of the influx of people as the activities will be ongoing. And so it is important for the contractor to ensure that there is counseling and testing of the employees, and also trainings, as I had mentioned earlier. In the statutory training package, HIV and AIDS training should also be included to ensure that all the workers are properly informed on how to manage themselves and to live morally during the working period. There's also a possibility of air and noise pollution, and this can be mitigated through ensuring that working hours are limited from 8 to 5 p.m. and also the machinery that are used are in good condition. Impacts during operation. I have already mentioned about increased wastewater. So overexploitation of groundwater resource. This can be mitigated by ensuring that we only abstract what is needed at that particular point. There's also a potential impact of siltation in the dams. This can be mitigated by frequent desiltation and proper catchment management, so that the people upstream are properly educated on how to manage the ecosystem to ensure that there is no siltation. Waste management can be managed through proper waste management plans by the county, and also where necessary, they can contract a waste disposal company that is well registered by NEMA. Occupational health and safety, it can be mitigated by provision of PPEs, and just not only provision but ensuring that the PPEs provided are suitable for the activities that are happening on site, and the people who are supposed to put on the PPEs are well trained on the need to use the PPEs, and when the PPEs are worn out, they should be replaced within the required time. There is a possibility of leakages which will lead to increased non-revenue water, and this can be mitigated through provision of rapid response teams which can be able to solve the issue within the shortest time possible. There's also a possibility of damage to the people who live downstream of the dam. For example, the issue of solai in case the dam overflows and it doesn't have a proper spillway. And so we advocate for the client, the county, to come up with a dam safety plan and ensure that it is implemented accordingly. And it is also reviewed where there is need to ensure that the mitigation measures provided are sufficient. If they are not working, then they can be reviewed and improved to make sure that the system is intact. And finally, the recommendations. Now that we have gone through the impacts, the positive and negative ones, basically is to urge the county to ensure that once the contractor comes on board, the contractor is able to implement the ESMP accordingly to ensure that no impact is left unattended. And just to bring to your attention, maybe to remind you, there is a 0.1% fee that is supposed to be paid to NEMA to facilitate the issuance of the NEMA license. And so the county should take note of that, which is 3.8 million Kenya shillings in this case. In case there will be any complaints regarding this project, the county and LOASCO should be able to handle the issue accordingly and as provided for in the ESMP. And finally, now that all the negative impacts have been addressed, and assuming that the contractor will be able to implement them, it is we look forward to a positive and approval of this report, or rather project, by NEMA.